So you are planning on hiking the Lycian Way. Congratulations, excellent choice. The Lycian Way is my favorite long-distance hiking trail for many reasons. It is rich on culture and loaded with history. It runs through a unique environment which has an abundance of plant and animal species, has stunning coastal and mountain views, and the locals that live there are probably some of the most welcoming and hospitable in the whole world. I walked one part of it in 2024, and now just in 2025 I hiked the rest of it. So with all the experience I gained and mistakes I made, I thought I'm gonna make a video to answer as many questions as possible that you guys might have. Anyway, there is a good chance that I won't cover all your questions. If that's the case, don't worry, write your question in the comments and I will do my best to answer it there. But for now, let's get right into the video. Good planning and preparation is key to a successful hike. As the Lycian Way is growing in popularity year by year, there are now already a lot of resources you can rely on and use to plan your hike. Last year I used mainly the TrackRide app. There are also a lot of Facebook groups which in my opinion work great for planning. There are many people asking questions. There are a lot of people who already hiked the trail answering these questions. It's a great thing. Check out the Facebook groups. But while planning for my hike this year, what I used a lot was Trackopedia, which has pretty big and detailed descriptions of predetermined stages, campsites, resupply points, water sources, so a lot of very interesting informations about the trail. Especially if you're looking for predetermined stages, check out Trackopedia, it's really good. For me, for this year, what I figured out was the best thing to plan the hike is the Outdoor Active app, because they have the Lycian Way in their app, they use OpenStreetMaps, they have a lot of additional wild camping spots and additional water sources which TrackRide or Trackopedia do not have. This is always the up-to-date version of the trail. TrackRide, for example, why I did not use it this year, they don't always have the updated version. This year, for example, I sometimes also used TrackRide just to see what they say, if maybe they have more information on the trail than Outdoor Active. But the thing was, TrackRide often follow the outdated version of the trail. The downside of Outdoor Active is that to use the route planning tool, you must have a subscription which is €30 per year. If you are doing it like me, that you're like hiking a lot and like to plan your own tours, then it definitely pays off. In my opinion, it's a really great app. If you like it old school, there is also a guidebook. The most famous one is written by Kate Claw, which is the initiator of the Lycian Way herself. On my first long distance hikes, I had guidebooks with me, but now personally I opt against guidebooks because of the extra weight. Another thing which many people swear by, and they are right, is to bring a physical map of the area you're hiking in with you. That absolutely makes sense, because if all your devices break down for which reason ever, you are still not completely lost. It's not so easy to get completely lost on the Lycian Way, but it's also not impossible. I admit it's a good idea to bring a physical map with you. Also admit I rarely do that. Luckily I never came into a situation where I would have relied on one. I often see that question, and the answer is not too easy, but I will try. So the Lycian Way as a whole is not too hard. The trail is pretty diverse, and from hiking on the road to dirt roads and proper mountain hiking, everything is included, but there are nearly no stages that I would consider dangerous or anything. There are a few sections, like 2 or 3 on the whole trail, which I would consider steep and exposed. One part close to Kash, where you hike next to some Lycian rock tombs and you have to climb up some very steep steps, and it's also secured with a rope, but that's it. So this is basically the hardest part for some. Like, it's good if you would have a head for heights and when you have a little experience in mountain hiking, but overall don't be scared of anything. There is nothing really too hard. Definitely you will be challenged physically and mentally, especially if you hike the whole trail in once, because I think the hardest part for many people will be to hike for like 3 to 4 weeks, day by day, like nearly every day hiking. Depending on your fitness level, it will take you somewhere between 20 to 30 days, I guess. I've met people who made it even faster. Don't worry about other people how fast they are. You don't need to break any records. So when you're planning this, try to adjust the stages to your fitness level. Like I said, you don't want to break any record or anything. You want to enjoy this trail. You want to have fun. Maybe you actually want to challenge you. So then go challenge yourself. Make harder stages. But overall, don't overdo it, because I think the fun factor or the enjoyment, like I said, there are amazing nature and culture and history all around you, so please enjoy that. But anyway, if this is your first long distance hike, try to get in at least a bit of a shape. Do some multi-day tours, like do at least 3-day tours, and I encourage you to bring the backpack as if you would go on the Lycian Way. So pack all the stuff you want to do, get used to the weight on your back, get used to hike the distances, the ascent, the descent that you are planning for the Lycian Way. Try to do that somewhere in your area if that's possible. Prolong these hikes, maybe do a 5-day hike, however your time allows it. When it is your first long distance hike, you definitely will make the mistake to put too much stuff in your backpack. Nearly everybody does that. So when you're doing these short preparation hikes, maybe you can figure out what you actually need and what you don't need. So maybe you can make your backpack already a bit lighter. And for the trail, I recommend to take a pause day every now and then, because especially if you're sleeping in a tent, many people, including me, they don't sleep that good in a tent. So try to get good sleep, and every now and then allow yourself to get 1 or 2 nights in an actual bed, in an actual accommodation, to get some proper sleep. Take a pause day, eat some good food, sleep. That's really important, I think. I think a night in an actual bed can do wonders for your motivation and also physical health. Most people start the hike either in Fethiye or Geyikbayeri, which is just outside of Antalya. Antalya has a busy international airport, and I think most people who hike the Lycian Way arrive there. So from Antalya or Geyikbayeri, you can start your hike from east to west, or you do it the other way around and take a bus from Antalya to Fethiye, which is about 3.5 hours and costs around €8, and hike from west to east. So the public transport in Antalya is, in my opinion, really great. They have a lot of tram and bus lines, and you can just use Google Maps, figure out which line to take to get to your destination. One ride costs about 55 cents, euro cents, but to use the public transport, you will need an Antalya card. This card costs €1 and you can get it on some ticket machines, and you can easily buy them there. Then you can put as much money as you want on that, and every time you enter the bus or the tram, you just like beep, there are some machines and you put it on there and it's fine. Also, you can use one card for multiple people. So I only had this card and I used it for Richie and me. That's the easy thing about public transport in Antalya. So when in Antalya, you will need to get to the bus terminal. And depending on where you want to go, there are 2 terminals. There is the long distance bus terminal and the regional bus terminal. If you want to go to Fethiye, you will have to go to the long distance bus terminal. And if you want to go to any other place, like for example, last year I started in Čirali, you just walk there, you try to figure out which is your right terminal. Just ask people. The people in Turkey are usually very nice and very helpful, and they just tell you where to go. If you go to the long distance bus station, then you usually buy the ticket at the counter. And if you use a dolmuş, so the minibus to the smaller towns, the regional bus line, then you usually pay in cash. Take more cash with you in Turkey overall. Like the bus terminals and public transport in Turkey, it seems first like absolute chaos, but it's super easy because you just ask people and they put you where you want to go. In case you want to start in Fethiye, there are also other options to go to Fethiye. There's an airport in Dalaman, which is not too far from Fethiye. If you are in a different part of Turkey at the moment, before starting the trail, Turkey has a great and very cheap long distance bus system, and also a rather small but also pretty cheap railway system. So it's very possible to get to the start of the Lycian Way quite fast and cheap from anywhere in the country. One last thing about Geyikbayeri, which is the eastern start or ending point of the trail. There are not many frequent dolmuş there. Keep that in mind when you want to arrive there, but especially when you end your trail there. you maybe have to wait for a very long time. What Rich and me did when we ended this year's stages in Geek Barriere, we were just lucky. We were standing on the side of the road, and some guy just stopped and asked if he can take us with him. Legend. This happens in Turkey. So if you're standing next to the road and look a bit lost, people will collect you and bring you where you want to go. But hitchhiking overall is something pretty normal in Turkey, so maybe keep that in mind. Where will you sleep on the trail? One of the greatest things about the Lycian Way is that you can basically sleep everywhere. You can either bring your tent and camp at one of the many wild camping spots along the way. There are also some paid campsites which have some luxuries like showers, or of course you can choose the actual luxury options and sleep in guest houses, bed and breakfast, hotels and that stuff. Along my hike I tried all of these. If possible, I honestly prefer to wild camp as I'm a budget traveler, and not only that, but also the fact that you hear so much wildlife around you at night. Like in many nights we heard so many owls all around us, and it's such an amazing calming noise. I absolutely loved it. In both years I also tried one paid campsite, which was fine. Like I said, they have luxuries like showers, Wi-Fi, some offer food. You can recharge your devices. They have actual toilets most of the time. In April 2025, the prices were between 300 to 500 liras for paid campsites per person, and that's excluding food, so just keep that in mind. In my opinion, the most negative thing about the campsites is that most of the time, obviously, they are in or close to towns, and towns most of the time have stray dogs. These stray dogs, they tend to bark the whole fucking night for no reason. That's no calming sound like an owl. This is hysterical barks that will keep you up. In Cirali in 2024, I slept at one paid campsite. The whole night there were roosters and dogs screaming and barking alternately. I think that night I only slept like 1 hour. It was horrible. In many towns, the muezzin will pray at sunrise. If you've never been to a Muslim country like Turkey, the muezzin will pray at sunrise and multiple times during the day, and that you hear that happens through speakers from the mosques. So try to stay a bit far away from mosque. When you're at a campsite that is close to a mosque, you will hear it and you will wake up. Also keep in mind, these campsites are not open the whole year round. They only usually open in April and they close again in October. And while hiking in March 24, nearly all of them were closed. We saw nearly no open campsite. So, and then there are the actual luxury options: hotels, guest houses, bed and breakfast, Airbnb, all that stuff. The prices vary a lot, and the cheaper options obviously tend to be in the bigger towns like Kaş, Finike, Fethiye, Kalkan. The bigger the town or the more touristy the town maybe, the cheaper the options, because they just have more accommodations. I enjoyed wild camping a lot, but from time to time sleeping in an actual bed is just great for your mind and soul and body, of course. As I mentioned multiple times now, you hiking just straight through hundreds and hundreds of years of history and culture, and especially in towns like Demre, for example, where there are heritage sites. Take a day off there, get a cheap accommodation, use the day off to wash your clothes, I don't know, to relax, check out the ruins and stuff. The Myra, for example, in Demre, it's absolutely amazing. It pays off. You can expect double rooms as cheap as 15 euro per person, and single rooms a little bit above that, like maybe starting at 20 euro. But that also really depends on the season you're hiking in. If you're hiking off season, the prices will be as low as 15 euro, maybe even cheaper. And the closer the holiday season get, the higher the prices will get as well. So yeah. Also keep in mind, booking.com is blocked in Turkey. So to use booking.com, you will need a VPN. Or you use Turkish websites or apps like hotels.com, which sometimes even show better deals than Booking. Airbnb works as well in Turkey, but sometimes tends to be more expensive, but you obviously can check it out. Some question that I often hear is, can you do the Lycian Way without a tent? And apparently you can. I will put a link in the description about this topic because on Trakopedia there is an article about this exact section. Overall, on the whole Lycian Way, it is possible to do it without a tent, but expect some long stretches, especially in the more remote areas. That is something so individual that I have actually no idea how to answer that question properly. Also, I did not track how much money I spent this year on the trail or last year. But it makes a huge difference if you are camping and cooking your own food, or if you are staying in a hotel and eating at a restaurant every day, 1 or 2 times. So obviously there's a huge difference. Overall, the prices in Turkey cheaper than in most Central or Western European countries. Not only for groceries, but also in hotels or at restaurants. But honestly, I think if you do wild camping and cook for yourself most of the time and only go to a restaurant every couple of days, like, to be honest, like if you're on a very remote stretch and see the first town after 2 or 3 days, my first walk is into a restaurant. Do it, you earned it. If you try to be on a budget and cook for yourself most of the time and buy the groceries in the supermarket and do wild camping, I think you can go as cheap as like 10 euros per day. I think that's kind of possible. On the other hand, obviously, if you sleep in mainly hotels, eat in restaurants all the time, and use other stuff like luggage transfer, for example, that can go way up. You can also make a luxury trip of the Lycian Way, I think. So the signage of the Lycian Way is red and white. And throughout the trail, there are stretches that are well marked and some stretches that are not so well marked. Overall, I think that the lower areas are pretty well marked, and north of Cirali, the marking got worse and worse and we often lost the trail. While saying that, keep in mind that the Lycian Way is cared for by mostly volunteers, so don't expect the signage to be perfect. Anyway, as I said earlier, get yourself an app where the trail is marked so you can track yourself and see if you're still on the way or not, and also maybe bring a physical map with you. The peak season for the Lycian Way is mid-March to mid-May and mid-September to mid-November. These months are mostly warm but not too hot. Summer is the season you should avoid. Walking challenging stages in over 30 degrees heat is absolutely no fun and just dangerous, so please don't do that. Basically, you can also walk it in winter, maybe not the alpine stages. The reason why I skipped the the mountainous stages north of Cirali in 2024 was because there was late snowfall in March and also nights below 0 degrees up in the mountains, and I just don't have equipment for that, so I passed on that and decided to come back this year. Something we experienced a lot in 2024, especially along the coast, were thunders at night. We were lucky because they always passed us, but it's not really funny to be in a tent during thunder. It's not only a bit scary, it's also dangerous. Your tent poles are basically attracting the lightning. So always check the weather forecast, especially if you're camping, and maybe think about a pause day or at least sleep inside that night if there is a forecast for thunder. I usually use the Meteo Blue app, which worked pretty good most of the time. While I absolutely enjoyed being offline for most of the day while hiking, from time to time you will want to tell your loved ones that you are still alive or just check the weather, hotels or the next stage. The overall reception throughout the hike is quite good. I mean, obviously in some remote areas there is no connection, but I don't remember if there was a whole day where we had no connections. However, make sure you download the maps of your hiking app for offline use before you start the hike. If you need Wi-Fi, you usually find it in the classical places, in restaurants, your accommodation, campsites. eSIM cards are gaining in popularity, but they also have downsides. I have a Galaxy S10, which release date was in March 2019, and this phone is too old for eSIM cards. So yes, if you are thinking about getting an eSIM card, check beforehand if your phone is actually compatible. If you want to buy a local SIM card, then I recommend getting one from Turk Telekom. There are 3 big providers of local SIM or tourist SIM cards, which is Vodafone, Turkcell and Turk Telekom. I went to all 3 of them to ask for the prices. Vodafone and Turkcell told me it's 50 euro for the SIM card. Turk Telekom has their cheapest option at around 32 euros. I think all the packages are the same, and I think you get 20 GB of data. It works for 30 days. Let's talk about potential dangers on the trail, and let's start with snakes and scorpions, because this is a very frequent question. There are about 10 snake species in the region of the Lycian Way. Only the venom of 2 of them is strong enough to actually harm humans. Overall, snakes tend to avoid humans. They flee as soon as they notice you, usually. But obviously that's not always the case. Like in my first Lycian Way video, I think you see me nearly stepping on an Ottoman rock viper. This is the most venomous one on the Lycian Way. I really nearly stepped on it, and even there it didn't bite. A snake bite is very, very unlikely to happen. Not impossible, but very unlikely. If this unlikely event actually happens, stay calm. Call the authorities. Usually anti-venom is distributed in the hospitals in the area. There is also 1 scorpion species that can harm humans, which is the yellow scorpion, and they mostly live under rocks. So if you don't flip rocks, then you probably will not encounter them. So don't worry too much about scorpions. One thing that you should always do in the morning when you get out of your tent, grab your shoes, turn it upside down, and make sure that there is nothing inside. Also, when you're in your tent and also when you're outside of your tent, always close the zips of your tent so nothing can get in. So while I encourage you to be mindful and careful while hiking, I think there are way bigger threats than snakes and scorpions. All of them are human-made. In the last couple of weeks, I saw a bunch of videos of people interacting and even feeding wild boars on the trail. And I will try to be as respectful and calm while telling you what this is the most stupid thing you can do. When you feed a wild animal, they will start to associate humans with a source of food. They will lose their natural shyness. Now, wild boars are actually, they're huge. They're huge animals. They can hurt you, they can even kill you. If for which reason ever these friendly fellas decide that they're not friendly anymore, that they're pissed, like maybe something scared them, or they are just pissed because you don't give them food, then that can end really, really bad. So please, never feed wildlife. Not only not wild boars, no wildlife. If you want to feed something, go to the shelter, get a cat or a dog and feed them. That's fine. The wild in wildlife stands for they don't need you to be fed. So what else? Wildfires can also be a threat. Please take care. Please don't camp. Don't light campfires during the dry season. Don't throw away cigarette butts. Like all your other trash, please take it with you. That's it. And also try to be updated about wildfires in the region. So but now let's get to the 2 actual biggest threats of the Lycian Way. The first one is traffic. While most of the time you are walking around pretty remote areas, you will have to cross a bunch of busy streets and roads, so that's unavoidable. Sometimes you also have to follow streets for a couple of kilometers, but nothing too bad. But anyway, please take care. Like anywhere else in the world, the drivers in Turkey are also not always the most respectful. And now to the absolutely biggest threat on the Lycian Way. Dogs. Be stray or shepherd dogs. There are a lot of them on the whole Lycian Way in whole Turkey, and you will encounter them mostly around towns or farms. Now 90% of these dogs will be super friendly. They just want to say hi. Even if they bark at you first, they are easygoing. You can say hi, you can pet them, whatever you like. Some will even follow you for a couple of hours or even for days. that just happens on the trail. But there are a few that are not friendly. This year I met a woman from England who got bitten by a stray dog in Beijing. In some Facebook groups I realized that there are more and more articles about aggressive dogs or even people getting bitten by dogs. 2024, my ex-girlfriend and we got cornered from 2 shepherd dogs. That was actually like one of the scariest moments of my life, and I've seen some shit, you know. As I said, that's probably the biggest danger there. And what can you do to protect yourself? Not too much. Don't worry too much. Most dogs are really friendly. If you have an encounter with an actual aggressive dog, only the movement, like picking up a stone, this is a battery, not a stone. Only the movement of picking up and attempting to throwing a stone will scare away most of the dogs. If it doesn't, then actually throw a stone into their direction. I don't want to encourage you to throw a stone at anything, but if you feel scared, throw the stone right into their face. Like, they just should piss off and leave you alone. Also, your hiking poles are something to maintain a distance between you and dogs. That's it. And while you do all that stuff, try to get yourself out of the territory of the dogs. That's all the ideas I have. That's what I did last time. Food and water resupply can obviously be done in towns. Now, not every single town or village has a shop. Apps like Trackpedia or TrackRide have shops and resupply points marked. For me, the most reliable source was Google Maps to get to know where we can find a spot to resupply. Some remote shops, like for example in Hisachandir, there was a shop that was on no map. Sometimes you get also a positive surprise. Anyway, always plan a proper resupply according to your route, and always take at least 1 emergency meal with you, better more. There is a chance that the shop you wanted to go is not existing anymore or is closed, so better be safe than sorry. The same goes with water. Along the way there are many water sources, and there, in my opinion, the best app is Outdoor Active or OpenStreetMap. There are a lot of different kinds of fountains, like classical fountain in a town, or fresh water spring coming out of the mountain, or cisterns that mainly shepherds use for themselves or their livestock. In towns, even if they don't have a shop, you can always get water, because musks are a point where you can always fill up your bottles with fresh drinking water. Planning here is a bit tricky, because most of these sources will carry water throughout spring, but will have less water or run out of water during the year, during summer. Also, some of them obviously can be dirty. So I recommend to refill your water supply on every source you pass, because you never know if the next one is reliable, if the next one has fresh, clean water. Something I absolutely recommend is using filter bottles. I can show this to you. This is a Sovivo filter bottle. There's the filter. So they have this filter, you just plug it in here, and then you can basically use it like a straw. And it purifies the water. So I highly recommend you to bring a filter bottle, not only on the Lycian Way, but on every long distance hike. Even from the tap water, like in your hotel room, which is not that enjoyable in Turkey or other countries. Every filter bottle takes out the chlorine taste. Some people also use purification tablets, which is absolutely fine. I personally don't like it that much, because I think it tastes a bit funny afterwards. So I rather opt to filter bottles. There are a few things that I do on long distance hikes that I know work for myself. But what I gotta tell you, I'm a random guy in a YouTube video. I'm no doctor or anything like this. What I tell you now is nothing medical, it's only what I know works for me. In real life, I'm a gardener and landscaper, so the closest I get is being a plant doctor. But anyway, here is what I do on a trail to keep my body in a kind of good shape. I use deer tallow. Actually, I don't know if you get that somewhere out of the German-speaking area. It's Hirschtalg. Hastestones. You put it on your feet. It's mainly for blister prevention. Every day in the morning before I put on my hiking boots, I put on a deer tallow, and it's great. It keeps your feet moist, like not a disgusting sweaty moist, but a healthy moist. So yeah, it prevents blisters and other injuries on the trail, and I really recommend it. It's really a big difference if you use it or not when you're easily getting blisters. You will most probably get sore muscles from time to time on the trail, and what I use to help the natural muscle recovery is magnesium. You just take that once a day. Don't take too much because it gives you diarrhea. These are like pills you dissolve in water. They're also like just pills that you swallow. You can get that in every pharmacy in Turkey. That's a good thing to take with you on a long distance hike. Additionally to this, try to maintain a healthy diet. I know that is not the easiest, especially if you have to carry all your food. Eat a lot of proteins, which also helps recover your muscles. You definitely don't need to count calories because you burn a shitload when hiking with a heavy backpack on. Your body really needs all the nutrients to recharge for the next tough hiking day. At the end of the day, don't forget to stretch a bit because you want to stay flexy and prevent injuries. So now I'm gonna show you guys what I had with me on the trail. Let's start with my backpack. It's an Osprey Levity 60. It's an ultralight backpack. It only weighs around 800 to 900 grams. It's a great backpack for long distance hiking. I also have a rain cover for it, which is super important, not only for the rain, but also to protect the backpack. In Turkey, you will have a lot of spiky vegetation. It's a good thing to have your backpack covered. Hiking poles. When I was in my early 20s, I thought hiking poles are for older people. Then in my mid-20s, I tried hiking poles the first time, and I never want to hike without them anymore because it's great. They take so much pressure from your knees, especially when going down a mountain. It's really, really great. I highly recommend it. These are my hiking shoes. These are barefoot shoes. They are great, but with time, especially on loose and sharp gravel, you feel the ground a bit too much, I would say. So yeah, they were semi good to use. With them, because they're not waterproof, with them I use waterproof socks for the rainy days. Usually I use sport socks and a pair of normal socks for the evenings, 2 pieces of underwear, 1 shirt for the evenings. These are my hiking pants from Revolution Race. They are zip off, so you can adjust to the temperature. Inside here is my rain jacket, which is also working as a pillow. I did not use it once during the hike, but I used it every night as a pillow. What I also got for the nights, thermal pants and shirt, long sleeve shirts. Sometimes in the mountains there was it was quite cold in the night, so I was happy that I had it with me. Then classical travel towel. This is like a pullover for the colder days. Then these classic shirts, easy ones. They are very light, they dry super fast. Then I had a buff to protect my head from the sun. Then my sleeping bag, which is fine until about 7 degrees. For the really cold nights, I even had an inlay with me, which is a thermo inlay, which gives your sleeping bag an additional 8 to 10 degrees. I was never freezing on the Lycian Way. Then my mattress and my 2-person tent, Manga 2 from Nature Hike. Then obviously headlamp, power bank. With this one I could charge my phone between 3 to 4 times. Sunscreen, of course, toothbrush and toothpaste. Then some stuff like soap, lip balm, and some stuff for the cooking, needle, and obviously disinfection. It's great to have that with you when you don't always come to some freshwater sources. Then deodorant, the magnesium that I already showed you, the deer tallow that I showed you. This is something that also has a lot of electrolytes inside. It's a powder, you can give it into your water. Voltaren, which helps your muscles relax and pain relief. Solert for insect stitches. A nail clipper, which is really important. Always clip your nails when hiking, especially your toenails. Medication for against the diarrhea. Don't forget your own personal medication that you might need. Sunglasses, a first aid kit, my filter bottle that I showed you, and then the cooking system with a screw-on gas can. You can get these cans in many places on the Lycian Way. In all the bigger towns, obviously. In Antalya they have a Decathlon. In Fethiye, I think they have a Decathlon, so you can get them everywhere, and also in smaller supermarkets along the way. They adapted to the needs of the hikers. I have an ultralight pot with cutleries inside. Then I have this stuff here with my batteries and SIM cards. And obviously, you guys, you are in my GoPro, which I'm holding now. I had also my GoPro with me on the trail, obviously. My Swiss Army knife. Multi-tool, good thing to have with you on the trail. Another very important thing to bring on the trail that I nearly forgot: wet wipes and toilet paper. If you're a long-term traveler like me, or you just make holiday before or after hiking the Lycian Way, there is the Culture Route Society. These are the volunteers that take care of the Lycian Way and other hiking trails in Turkey. Their base is in Antalya, and what they offer is you can bring your luggage there while hiking the Lycian Way, and you can store it there. They will also tell you if your map that you are having is the up-to-date map of the trail. That was a long video, huh? I hope you liked this video. I hope I could help you. If I did not mention all your questions, please write them down in the comments. And I really hope that I could help you planning your Lycian Way. If so, have a lot of fun. It's really worth it. If you liked the video, hit the thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed yet to the channel, please subscribe to the channel. You would really support me with that. If you haven't watched my other Lycian Way videos, then feel free to do so. There are plenty of them. And well, as always, I hope to see you guys next time. Bye.